Hello, beautiful people from the land of YouTube. My name is Soul, and today I want to talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I'm pretty much caught up on the MCU empire. There was a lot of rumors coming out. Who's gonna be the next big cameos from Doctor Strange? It's got multiverse in the title. What's gonna happen? I even watched X-Men for the first time to prep for this movie. I never gave a fuck about X-Men in my life, but I gave it a shot, and I pleasantly enjoyed the X-Men movies. Some much more than others, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Doctor Strange today. And then there's a little bit of weight on the shoulders of this movie. Doctor Strange has been promoted to the upper cast of the MCU. He was a big part in No Way Home. People care about Doctor Strange more than ever, so now we really got to hit it hard with this second movie. The first movie is pretty damn good. We got to follow it up. And now we're in stage 4 post-Endgame. We got to hold their attention. We got to make it important, but at the same time, we can't just do ham-fisted cameos. And there was a lot of online chatter about who was coming out for this movie. I heard both the Spider-Mans were coming. I heard pretty much every character that featured in Marvel's What If was going to be there. The ones that ended up being in there, I heard were going to be in there. But I was a good boy. I stayed away from all the spoilers. But for those watching this video, I would go and watch the movie because we're going to swan dive right into spoilers. So if you haven't seen Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, get out of here. So we're going to talk about the Illuminati, zombie Doctor Strange, a music battle, Scarlet Witch being the most evil character in MCU as to date, but we're going to get to all that. We're going to take it piece by piece. Sit back, get cozy. We're going to be here for a minute. First things first, what I want to talk about is expectations. Before this movie came out, I was pretty upset by the trailer, which featured Charles Xavier. They didn't show any of the other cast of the Illuminati, but they gave away the biggest surprise, which was Xavier. And again, people thought the cameos for this movie were gonna be wild. And then I heard there's 2 after credit scenes. It's called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Really, this film could have been titled
Doctor Strange versus Scarlet Witch Multiverse Battle to the Death.
And it probably would have had a more fitting title. Not to say that there's not a lot of multiverse stuff in this film, not to downplay that there is this level of insanity. Even the final scene with him getting that stupid ass looking third eye. Like, there's a lot of people who have been dogging on this film. I'm in the positive, by the way. But the fact that he has this stupid ass third eye, I feel like gives every hater of this film this trump card, because there's this stupid ass moment in the film where he pulls out his hidden third eye, his Millennium Eye of CGI, and it looks awful. Every time that they do it, it just keeps looking worse. And they waste the final shot of the movie on it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Back to my original point. Yes, a lot of people were expecting a lot out of this film, and if you rewatch the trailer now, it kind of makes sense, because they knew if they put Xavier just in the trailer, they were going to get a lot of asses in seats. And they knew for a fact that they weren't doing these characters properly. This movie is about 3 characters: Doctor Strange, America, and Scarlet Witch. It's not about Charles Xavier. It's not about Jim from the Fantastic Four. It's not about Agent Carter. No, none of them. It's about the fucking guy whose name is on the title. It's about the other character who's been around since Age of Ultron, and we've been really trying to build her up as this big ass character in the MCU. She's fresh off actually a really good series and is now the main antagonist of a big MCU movie. Yeah, that's just as important as shoehorning Charles Xavier into a movie. What I'm saying is, a lot of people come to these films just for member berries and to checklist characters, and that's not how good films are made. There's a reason you care about these characters, and they will hopefully flesh out these characters eventually. Yes, they killed them in a way that felt like they were getting jobbed out, but that scene with Wanda versus the Illuminati is my favorite scene, and also like my least favorite scene, because the fact that she just utterly wipes these main characters of this timeline makes her feel all the more powerful, all the more badass, and way more evil than I had previously. Scarlet Witch is on a trail of destruction of this movie, and it's one of the best things about it. Yes, they jobbed out fucking Charles Xavier for this role, but we all know that they're gonna bring this guy back. We all know that this doesn't really count, and there is a chance that Disney just doesn't care about these characters that it didn't originally put in the MCU. So there is that, but that doesn't really matter for this movie. And that's how you waste a big chunk of watch time in your video just talking about cameos. The movie has been described as a horror film. It's been described as a romance film, an adventure film, a sci-fi, fantasy. It's Sam Raimi given the best green screens in Hollywood and telling him to go wild. And I'm not gonna lie, it's an entertaining film. I do understand how some people, maybe you're burnt out on the MCU, maybe there's just too much CGI. I can understand why people wouldn't like this movie. Personally, I enjoyed it. It did feel like my eyeballs were bleeding at one point. Because yes, Sam Raimi does have a vision. He does have working eyeballs that makes good looking films. But the main character of this film uses magic. And the main antagonist uses magic. And they are traveling through constant different dimensions, featuring a bunch of other characters who have to quickly establish their big fuck all CGI power. And at some point, you just want to look at something real. You want to go outside and smell air.
Smell that air, Fester!
But it's a Marvel film. You know they're going to sneak some emotion into those cracks. Doctor Strange actually has a pretty nice romance with Rachel McAdams' character. He, at the beginning of the film, he's at the low point of his hero's journey. He has to watch his loved one walk down the aisle with another man. He technically saved the universe, so he's getting praise, but he feels guilty because a bunch of people suffered based upon his choice, and they remind him of that. And then he feels bad about the whole Spider-Man thing. He's not living up to become Sorcerer Supreme. You know, he has a journey to go on, and by the end of this film, it's mostly about his romance and what he learns from that, because he tells her, I love you, even though in his original timeline, he couldn't do that. Because for obvious reasons, he couldn't do that. But he says to this other version of her, I love you in all universes. I never expected this romance to have such a large chunk of this film, but it kind of feels integral to the arc that they're telling with Doctor Strange. And then you have America Chavez, who's pretty much just your plot MacGuffin who can travel to different dimensions. I'm fine with her. I like her dialogue. I like that she dunks on Doctor Strange for not knowing Espanol. That's all great. I have two nitpicks with America, and they are one which is tied into the whole film, which is everyone's powers are confusing. You have Doctor Strange, whose powers were never really concrete. You kind of know the main things he can do, but he kind of just seems to pull shit out of his ass. He can do whatever he wants at a given time, but there's like certain times you're like, why don't you do this? And that's already weird. Then you have Wanda, Scarlet Witch, who's basically the same thing inverted, but she also has like supreme demon powers and can like travel through reflections. She can mentally dunk on Xavier, so she's all over the place. And then you have Chavez, who doesn't really understand her powers. She can kind of travel through dimensions, but then she can kind of punch things and they have a big effect, right? And then by the end, all it takes is Doctor Strange kind of being like, hey, keep trying, do better. And then she's like, you know what? You're right. I should. I do have a hold of my powers. And then she just masters it. It's this whole arc of getting to her, protecting her, and then she's just giving her a pep talk. And then she's like, yeah, I did it. That's bullshit. And you're introduced to like maybe 3 or 4 more other superheroes whose powers aren't like explained other than you have to watch them. So yeah, there's a lot of your superhero BS in this movie. So if you're not into that, I don't think you're gonna like this movie. So yeah, I'm a little bit miffed by her powers and how they handle it at the end of the film. The finale in general is a little bit weak. Wanda, I like the fact that she like just sees what a monster she becomes, and like that little nice part of her finally brings herself down, but you know, she's not dead. And we pretty much just abandon this universe that got ruined. This universe got fucked to hell, and they're not doing a damn thing about it. Then there's the after credit scenes, which, yeah, there's the fun cameo in there, but for someone, again, for the people who are expecting giant multiversal cameos, yes, it's a little underwhelming. Really, the cameo MCU shit isn't even like my favorite part of this film. I kind of like when Sam Raimi's just doing whatever the fuck he wants. When Doctor Strange fights evil Doctor Strange and they have a note battle, they're literally fighting with notes off of a piece of paper. He takes the ink and uses them as daggers, and they play with the right song, and then they play the music though. Yeah, that's awesome. I wouldn't consider this a horror film, but there's definitely like those little moments that he sneaks in there. There was actually some children in my audience, and I could actually hear just in the background their like slight little reaction as Wanda is killing people or popping out in jump scares. And yeah, there's actual action with consequences and blood in this film. In a universe that's already been censored just to make things a little less gory and bloody so it can be viewed by the widest demographic possible, it's nice that they actually don't pull their punches for once and they go for some really intense action scenes that you might see someone get sliced in half. You might see someone who gets turned into spaghetti. Charles Xavier gets his neck snapped, bro. And I don't want to give them this big gold star. I don't think just by having blood it's better. But I'm saying in a universe that feels like it really could use that refreshing, it was refreshing. A little blood, a little battle scars, they sell the injuries. They make things a little bit more intense as long as you do it right. And that's exactly what they did here. And let's talk about Wanda. Again, Wanda goes on a killing spree in this movie. She's badass AF, but it does feel like her turning full evil, her getting the evil book of darkness. I don't know, like it feels like it kind of just undoes a small little arc we had in WandaVision, where at the end of Endgame, Wanda was kind of an anti-hero, but she had a pretty clean palette. And in WandaVision, they start her down the wrong road, but then they kind of backpedal, and now she's kind of right in this neutral territory. There's a little bit of an arc there, and it feels like they just throw it away. Be like, nope, now she's evil. Now she's so fucking evil. Like, my wife was beside me, and when she killed Xavier, I just heard her under her breath, oh, you fucking bitch. Other than Thanos or maybe, like, Helen from Thor, other than that, I don't think there's another MCU villain I found more intimidating. Like, she is a mad woman coming after them in this film. The only other weak thing I have to say about it is her motivation does seem a little bit weak. We didn't really get that much time to spend with her kids, and the scenes with her kids and some of her lines, like there's definitely some cheesy one-liners in here. There's definitely some like, oh, comic book superhero Disney cheese lines, but the scenes with her kids just don't even feel like I'm watching human beings anymore. And that's like the backbone for what she's trying to do, but she's, again, driven by madness by a book. I get it. It's just, I kind of wish it was more natural of a journey. But yes, she's badass. Stephen Strange had a fun arc. A lot of really interesting visuals coming by Sam Raimi, including a little bit of horror, a little bit of romance, enough cameos to get the asses in the seats, and a decent enough story. I'm going to give Doctor Strange the same score I would give the first one, which is an 8 out of 10. Again, I can see why some people are dunking on this one, but I think there is a type of audience that this movie is trying to appeal to, and it does so, and it succeeds. And I'm still interested in these characters and whatever they're gonna do next at the magical factory that is Disney Marvel. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, the share button, anything else. I'm desperate out here, man. Please. Also leave a comment, let me know what you thought of Doctor Strange 2, and until next time with that, I leave you.